Hello, everybody. Today is March 26th. It is 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, PM. So it's my first video in about 10 days, something like that. I was off for a spring break week, and I had to catch up on some work when we got off of that. So lots been going on. So we'll jump right in with the elephant in the room, the last 3 and soon to be 4 days. Okay. And oops, let's get to it. It was a mistake. It will be addressed. No one was hurt. No mission was damaged. The rest is political games by a political party on life support. And what's he referring to? The Signal app situation that's been going on. So I would like to go over this real quick. So I've heard a lot of thoughts on it, following it from people like Jesse Kelly, who is taking a more hard line on the situation. Well, one, it's distracting, and that's what it is. Okay. Now let's think about it in context. Okay. We had a former vice president of the United States having a, I'm sorry, Secretary of State having a private illegal server in her basement to conduct business in conjunction with the Clinton Foundation, using foreign policy to probably launder money into those situations. So nothing there. We had an Afghanistan withdrawal. 13 servicemen and women killed because of pure incompetence, responding after faulty intelligence, killing an innocent family of 6. Okay, with a missile slash drone strike. Okay, not too far from Abbey. So those are just 2 examples. Okay, and what are we talking about? We're talking about someone being added to an app in a conversation where going through the texts that were released, or chats, whatever you want to call them, there was no operational information there. It was all, we'll call it macro strategery. Okay. And when you talk about the Houthis, they've been causing problems in the Red Sea shipping using mostly mobile carriers. They shoot the missiles, the drones, they move it. So you have to be up to date on intelligence. No intelligence gathering methods, although they probably understand satellites and other forms of technology that we have. Okay, they hide them. Our strikes were probably off of, we're going after more command and control and is possible storage sites for these types of launchers, mobile launchers. Okay, and it's going to go on for a while, and they're going to keep doing this. Now we can get into, well, most of the shipping is going to Europe, and yet Europe has only 2 frigates in there at a given time. Last I checked, it was France and Italy had a frigate there. They can't supply, they constantly have to replace them out. But yet we have carrier battle groups there, and we're doing the airstrikes. Okay. So there was nothing on it that put anybody in harm's way, like Chuck Schumer said, put some national, there's no national security bombing the Houthis of Yemen because there was a chat on, should we do it now? Should we do it later? We'll use FA-18 Hornets. There's not. That's what we would do, and everybody knew we were doing the strikes anyway. So that's fine. And the Houthis expect it. That's why they hide and use mobile launchers. So it's just ridiculous. Now the question is, how did it get on there? Now the Waltz's interview with what's her face, Laura Ingraham, was pretty horrendous. He was like, "It's my fault, but as the staffer, you had a bad contact." Okay, from what I heard, it was an initial. Like, is that what you're doing to add to these chats? So if it's a staffer's fault, he needs to be fired. Period. There's got to be accountability that these things can't happen again because you can't give distractions like this. This is not a severe thing. You know, someone asked Trump today about Hegseth should be. What the hell does Hegseth have to do with it? He was just on the chat that he thought was secure. His job is to find out if it's 100% secure or not. And a journalist got on it, not a spy from another nation. Now, I happen to hate this journalist more than spies from other nations. Okay, because Jeff Goldberg's one of the biggest scumbags on planet Earth. Okay. And first of all, why does anybody working for this administration have his phone number? I don't even care if you're a career bureaucrat. If you're in the White House, you're in these part of the staffs of any one of these people. Okay, whether it's Ratcliffe at the CIA, this and that. If you have Jeff Goldberg's number in your phone or in your contact list, you don't be working for the Trump administration. So that's another problem that I have with the situation. Okay. So, you can't just be adding random people. So I'm thinking about who's JH? What other Jeff Goldberg is there? Who could JH be? Okay. So, you're like, is this an accident? I don't know. Was it done on purpose? There's theories out there that absolutely, just the way they sabotaged Trump with the phone call in his first term with that idiot Vindman and all the things going on with there, Chiarelli at the time. Okay. This could be the exact same thing. Someone, career person, someone in the deep state, completely opposed to his policies, trying to end the Ukraine war, etc. Let's just create a distraction. Okay. Because that's all this is. There's nothing illegal about what happened. You want to talk about incompetency? Look at our government sending checks out that we're finding out dead people and things like that's incompetent. Okay. But I believe there should be some accountability here. I'm not. Waltz his heart is in is a neocon. Okay, but own up to it. Yeah, I screwed up. I meant to put in here. It was next to the list. I hit the wrong button and I added the wrong guy. But again, why do you have the number? Why do you have that connection? Jeff Goldberg is at the Atlantic. There is no more of a globalist Trump hating publication than the Atlantic, and they are tied in to the military industrial complex and other globalist institutions. They write hit pieces first, not your everyday reporting, but the hit piece. They always give you the foreshadowing hit piece. These are the brain trusts of the corporate media globalist elites. So heads got to roll here and then move on. And the fact that the Senate's having hearings on this? What? we we got judges not caring about the Constitution, insanity, which we'll get to, and that's what there's a hearing on. That's what these people or whatever. And now imagine being asked these questions, like Gabbard being asked, it was Pete Hegseth drunk. He didn't put it on there. He had nothing to do with it. He thought he was on a secure link, right? If someone spies on a president's phone call or gets intercepted by a foreign nation, do we blame the president for that? No. He thinks he's talking on a secure line. So we start moving on since we're talking about craziness and judges. Okay. Let's scroll down here. This was in Breitbart. West Coast judges say Trump admin must take in refugees and pay for their housing. So the key thing here is, if you didn't know, that the federal judges panel welcome the roughly 40,000 refugees approved by President Joe Biden's deputies. We welcome this continued relief for tens of thousands of refugees who will now have the opportunity to restart their lives in the United States. Now, I want to scroll down this article because Breitbart hits it down. And if you don't know, today there was also a ruling supporting the judge, with the gang members being deported and so forth. So this is something I wanted to get to. And this was interesting, and it was smart of Breitbart to pull this out. Biden, now this is from 2021, February 2021, barely in office. Biden signed an executive order today, Thursday, that denies state and local governments any authority to reject the drop-off refugees into their towns and communities. Okay. So the significance of this is that it was an executive order. See, this is the problem. Congress passes the laws, president signs into law, and we have immigration law. And there hasn't been an immigration law passed in years. Okay? President, the executive authority, and there have been some court cases, executes those laws. So the president can do executive orders in executing those laws and how to execute them. Now let's take the bulk of the immigration invasion that happened on the Biden. It is just random people, some flown in, some made it here to through the Darien Gap and Eagle Pass, whatever. They drop their IDs, they claim asylum, political asylum, even though we know under international law the commonality is that you go to your first free country, you declare asylum, they hold you, and you can go to someone's consulate and try to immigrate to what country you want to go to, whoever take you, and you stay there temporarily. It's like why what's his face? The WikiLeaks guy. He was at the Ecuadorian embassy, okay, on political asylum, and they granted him that, okay, and he stayed there, okay. He could have then gone somewhere else, but he had a problem because of the United States, Britain, and extradition and all that. But the point of the matter is that's how it also works. These are not political refugees, okay. They were encouraged to come in. They're economic refugees, okay, at best, okay. And we're not going to get into the whole border and the fentanyl and everything else and the fact that our border patrol were acting like babysitters and just following these people, and processing them. It's that these people, what the Biden administration did is said, well, here's your asylum court date. It's 2031. You can stay in the United States. We're going to catch you. You're not really caught because they just surrender at the border and declare asylum, and they just get busted wherever, and they just stay in the country. Don't know who the hell they are, anything about them, and they just stay in. That is not immigration law. Okay, you have a legitimate political asylum. You're in Pakistan, you go to a bordering nation. You're in Austria, you go to Germany. You're in Thailand, you go to Burma. Okay, you're in Vietnam, you go to Laos. That's how it works. So as a guy from Cameroon's, if his life's in that danger, you go, I got to get the hell out of here. You don't care what the hell out of here is at that point. But you end up at the United States border. But that's what they did. And he did this by executive order. Okay. So that is the executive execution side. Okay. The next president should be able to reverse that executive order. Okay. It's like he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. You go by the executive order, you can die by the executive order. All right. These judges are saying, no, you can't. What? Not to mention that non-citizen do not have due process because in these specific instances, they're not being charged with a crime. They're just being shipped back. Okay? You do not have a constitutional right to be in the United States as a non-citizen. Zero. Unless there's a law enacted by Congress or a constitutional amendment. Okay? In this case, Biden, I believe, was deliberately violating federal law, but let's just say he wasn't. He was just, because of the flaws in our system, he's decided, I'm going to enact it this way. I want these people to wait here. Well, Trump has the right to say, no, I want them out. Okay? This isn't like a foreign national who, like, went out to a bar, drunk, killed somebody, and he's being charged with a crime here in this country, and we're going to give him due process, especially if we have these kind of treaties with other countries, because they want us to respect that in their country. That's not this. And what we're doing is now these judges, okay, are, okay, by the way, I just found out today from the Federalists that apparently a third of district court judges weren't born in the United States and weren't prior judges. So just chew on that for a second. Okay, that shows you they're just activist lawyers, right? Because these people don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't even care about democracy. They care about the imposition of their policies and their worldview on you at any means necessary. I think these people, the Upper East Side and the Manhattan, whatever, as long as they got their money in this, they could care less if they don't vote again. As long as what they want goes. End of story. And their imposition, oh well. The difference between conservatives is like Massachusetts, California, have a ball. Just leave me the freak alone. That's the whole point of having states. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so you have a case now where these judges are saying, no, you can't do that. So Biden can, but Trump can't. So what they're effectually doing is they are making policy decisions. Okay, he's not going, the point of the judge is Congress passes a law, president signs it, it becomes law. The executive branch enforces it with the president on top. The president says, no, I'm going to unilaterally change election law on the books, that's when a court steps in. You can't do that. That's law. They have to. Congress would have to reverse that law. But that's not the case here. These are all executive orders. Okay. So the constitutional crisis comes into play is that these judges are saying you can't do that because Congress didn't pass a law and they're favoring one executive order over another executive order. They are now not being a co-equal branch of government. They are now exerting dominance over that other branch. In this case, the executive branch. They didn't do this for one president. They did it for another. And that should tell you that they're policy driven, not constitutional provision. If think on this, if the president of the United States, by violating no federal law, in this case immigration law, does not have the power to deport criminals, known gang members, just because he hasn't been caught yet in the United States, does not mean he's not a gang member. All you have to do is call the consulate in that other country. Okay? And we do. We have great relations with El Salvador, other countries. Give us him. Who is this dude? Oh, he's that. Okay. So he didn't commit a crime here yet. Maybe. He probably did, but he's just been caught yet. But it's irrelevant because he's here on an executive order. He's here under catch and release, which Biden put into place. Trump can reverse that. But if you can't get that criminal out, then why even a judge can just say, no, you're not in charge of the executive branch, even though it's the executive branch that's supposed to enforce the existing laws passed by Congress and signed a law by prior presidents, then what the hell's the point? Then the legal system is meaningless. Then we should just think like the left does and just say, you know what? All that matters is our policies. Screw these judges. I don't care. We'll do the court thing, but just go. Because it's pointless. Because if you don't have that power to do that, and the president doesn't have that power to remove non-citizens, then he doesn't have the power to do anything. The hell with it. You just go home. Just go home. To hell with it. While we're at it, let's just print another $10 trillion, mail checks to everybody, and just have a free-for-all. Because it's a basic function. Okay? If I'm in a country illegally, okay, I'm not here on asylum, okay, do they let me wait there 6-7 months, get a job, do this? No way. Okay, all right, but people always ask, Trump always asks, well, why would they do this? Because it's ideological, because you're diluting the national culture, okay? You're also cheap labor. It's a combination of two. It's globalist, communist, whatever ideology you want to talk about. But it fits the mold. And that's the serious problem. So that's why I'm totally on the ignore it bandwagon. Because it doesn't matter. Because the system itself is broken. And when the system is broken, then you go, I can't rely on the system anymore, right? Storm comes, the power goes out, the system broke. You have to do something else. Well, that's it. My job is to enforce immigration law on the books. I'm reversing Biden's orders, and we're going forward. And that's it. And the Supreme Court doesn't want to jump in because they don't want to disrupt the system. Because for them to benefit personally, they have to believe in the system. Well, this is what's going to happen. It's broken, just like everything else. And screw tax law, screw this law. Just do what we want. That's what we should start doing. The hell with it. All right, so that's it. Since I just brought up taxes and the economy, let's jump on that one. So just coming out, and this is a stat that I really happen to, or data point I really like, is durable goods. Because that's a long-term investment. And I think that reflects, and consumer sentiment has still dropped a bit. We know that. But U.S. durable goods orders surged well above expectations in February. Now, is that because of things that maybe some repatriation of jobs, long-term belief interest rates will come down, faith in the Trump economy like last time and so forth? Who knows? Orders for durable goods rose far above expectations in February, climbing 0.9% to $289.3 billion, according to the Commerce Department's report released Wednesday. Economists had forecast a 1.5% 0% decline, but instead businesses continue to invest heavily in big ticket items, particularly automobiles, computers, and machinery. So, machinery, that's the one I like. That tells me a farmer's buying a piece of farm equipment. Uh, a plumbing company's buying an extra truck. Consumers are buying cars. So that's faith. That's in here. And then with tariffs and everything, maybe bringing some jobs home, get um, real, real growth, not printing money, government excesses, and huge deficits that have been fueling our economy for a long time. So that's good news, I think, going forward. Um, so let's jump into a little local politics. If you don't know, Republicans lost the Trump plus 13 district last night, special district in the Pennsylvania State Senate by about 1.5 points. Okay. Now, this is the problem. I think there are a lot of things that happen with this. There's always complacency. Republicans in recent years have not done well in special elections. I think one of the key reasons for that is because, particularly in the Trump era and particularly now, the coalition is different. It's more working class, it's very family oriented. You know, people have spring break. I think spring break is big in Pennsylvania right now, so a lot of families were going. The last thing on their mind is a special election for their state senate. Also, Democrats just lost the major election last, so they're motivated to come out and vote. I've seen that time and time again. But this is a bad sign because of the strength of the district. That's why I think we are going to lose that Wisconsin Supreme Court seat next week. And I think that's bad because they're going to redistrict. They're going to redistrict it, and it'll be probably two more Democrat seats in the House of Representatives going in, not, but pickups in the 2026 election. And it's that, and it's a low propensity voter now. Okay, among Republicans, and Trump's not on the ticket. Generic Republicans don't perform that well. Okay, we were +3 in the 2022 midterms, and everybody the polling for the Democrats in terms of the people complaining about inflation, all these other metrics that people were complaining about, and they just don't come out for Republicans. And the Republicans that embrace the populist brand get it and do much better than the old corporate Republicans, But this is bad. And they put money in the seat, and we did not. We have bad party leaders. We have still, yesterday's, 20 years ago, the local committeeman is now the county chair, and he's stuck in those old Republican ways, and he does not understand the coalition anymore. And then we don't invest. We don't invest locally and other stuff, Scott Pressler's going to eventually just give up. Am I the only one? Why am I wasting my time here if the party's not there? But if their coffers are good, whatever, So we get these like horrible congressmen from New York. The county chair picks them. It's a lawyer who's been in the system and this and that. Knows nothing about the private economy. It's all about what the Republican Party, what's good for the party, not the people. All right. And the problem is the real low-level Republicans get that, and the party leaders do not. And because they should put it in here. Now, if you get beat, you get beat. When you go all in, that's then I go, uh-oh. But I'm not at an uh-oh because you can't, at the end of the day, read for these based upon the trends and the things I just mentioned. But you should have won this. I mean, you should have won this. A group came in, invested $100,000 for them, get out the vote early. Come on, get in there, put in some staffers, pay them 20,000 a pop for a month to get the early vote in like crazy and get that. You lost by 500 votes. You couldn't have found 2,000 more votes. Come on. It's disgraceful, actually. Now, this just happened this evening. Donald Trump endorses Lindsey Graham for the 2026 election. I will tell you, I hope he gets a primary challenger. While Nancy Mace is not perfect, I would support her over Lindsey Graham. She did a lot of things to peeve a lot of people off. Particularly, I hear it on the social media platforms that she did in 2021 with Bannon and whatever. I think she was learning. She was very new then. Green didn't quite get the system. I think her experiences with McCarthy and other issues, she got it. And I think she really kind of came at least close to the MAGA camp. And she would be a vast improvement, in my opinion, to good old Warhawk Lindsay. So you don't have to do what Trump says on this. He's going to be loyal to him, and that's his choice. And it does not change Trump as the leader of our movement in this country right now. But let's get him out of there with someone good. If it has to be Nancy, it has to be Nancy because that's an upgrade. And it will make the race tighter, mostly because Trump's not on the ballot. MAGA people aren't fans of Graham, so they might not come out anyway. All right, it's Republican of state, and particularly in a U.S. Senate federal election, that will still hold the seat with Graham and with Mace. But it will be tighter regardless because it's going to be a midterm after a presidential election where we did well and hold the White House. And then some people in South Carolina will be pissed off if Lindsey Graham loses, and then there'll be MAGA more low propensities who will stay home if it is Lindsey. So just thought I'd show that out there. Now, this is kind of international economy, relates to MAGA as well. China has many more non-tariff barriers than the U.S. and Germany. So that's tariffs there. China, sees in the middle of the chart. United States is lower than China. All right. It's another tariff. Now, Zero Hedge put this out. They were commenting that there are all different types of, because you don't have a percentage tariff. There are other things that are barriers that try to do the same things to protect nations' industries from foreign competition. There are licensing features. There's labeling issues. You have to throw all these labels on your products. You have to, you can only import certain amounts of them. So it makes it more expensive if you can only bring, I'll only tariff you X amount, but I got to sell a certain amount to make it worthwhile. So they reduce those quotas or reduce the quotas on the imports. Okay. So there are a lot of things countries can do besides just throwing a tariff on it. So this is both tariff rates and non-tariff rates of countries. Now, our tariff rate is still lower than most, except for Canada and Australia. Non-tariff barriers were the lowest of these major countries. Look at that. Argentina, South Korea, United Kingdom, India, Turkey, way up there. China, way up there. You know, and these are basically weighted. So there might be different tariffs from different countries on this, but this is weighted averages of what they charge other nations. So like, even though it shows here that Canada is technically a little less than the United States in terms of tariffs, not total tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, but just tariffs, they actually tariff the United States more than they do other countries. But it's the weighted average. U.S. had low tariffs than Europe. Here we are, all the way to the right on the low. Only Switzerland, Japan, and Georgia were lower than we were. But there's the European Union as a whole, higher than we are. To the left, Canada. See, that's what I was talking about. Canada higher than the United States. Okay. India, extremely high. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, Trump is just trying to level the playing field and encourage that. So when you have that, particularly American-owned companies, even foreign companies, will say, well, to avoid the tariff, I got to start building here. What? Hiring American workers, giving them better option than $15 an hour at Home Depot or $200,000 for a useless college degree. Well, they'll end up in some horrible, boring job making $55,000, $60,000 stuck in front of a computer and Zoom calls all day dealing with corporate DEI policies. Okay. Those are those two options. This gives people another option, and that's great. And that'll raise incomes, increase your tax base, which is good for local, state, and federal government. There's so many benefits of doing it. So I got all these from Zero Hedge, but here we go. Another way to say it is the U.S. had the lowest tariffs levels in the world, lower than the European Union, Canada, Mexico, and China. All right, and then they put the rates up in a map for you with those other charts that I put up. So all for the tariffs. Let's go, baby. And moving on to some foreign. So if you all know the Romanian election, what happened? Okay, they said with globalist pressure from the European Union, probably our foreign policy establishment and the bureaucracy pressure got Georgescu out. But they approved Syrian. Syrian's from a conservative party. He's not as populist and nationalist as whatever. Guess they wouldn't just remove Georgescu to approve Syrian. But he's the one you got to go with based on that. If you see he's with the ECR, which is the political grouping unit in the European Parliament, I also think that some of them even caucus with the PFE, which is like that's who the National Rally caucuses with in the European Parliament and other more populist nationalist parties. So this is going to have to pull up. And look, he's up. He's up by 7 in the last poll. Now, Georgescu was up 12 before they permanently banned him from running. So you're going to get the drop off. It's just like Trump, right? You don't have Trump, the low propensities, you lose the low propensities. And that's what happens with the Republicans parties. But let's see what happens going on. That's a pretty big number. And European polling seems to be pretty good in my experience. So it looks like he will win. The election is in, I think it's May 8th or 18th. And 8 stuck in my head, but we'll see. All right. So moving on. So I'm not going to give you the whole video, but basically they're saying the amount of people that have died so far on a daily rate by these murdering lunatics who run, formerly HTS, Jelani, the prime minister or president of Syria, who had a $10 million bounty on his head, that through the assistance of Turkey, the blessing of Israel and the United States, it was more important for us, for a multitude of reasons, to take down Assad. And these poor Alawites, Christians, and Druze are being killed. Civilians like crazy. The media, even in the European Union, try to push it off as operations to get pro-Assad forces. No, these poor innocent people who were protected by Assad are getting slaughtered, and they're comparing it to during World War One, the massacre of the Ottomans against the Armenians. While there were over 1 million Armenians that were killed, the rate was 450 a day. And that's what's going on in Syria. That's freaking sick and sad. And no one's focusing on it. We're talking about a signal app here. Meanwhile, bombing the Houthis, doing the Europeans' dirty work for them in the Red Sea. So we're not the prime recipient of that. I'm not saying we can't have like a shipper there helping them out, but they shouldn't be helping us. We should be helping them out. And we should be doing something to do that. If I don't care. Call Russia, say, can you put some troops in there? We'll help you out. Help these poor people. We'll import 15 million people, don't know who the hell they are, free hotel room. Here are people just want to live a normal life, don't want to leave their home, and they're being slaughtered. Freaking disgusting. So, moving on. All right, Reuters. EU says unconditional withdrawal of Russia from Ukraine is precondition to amend sanctions. Europe talks tough on military spending, but unity is fracturing. European leaders are struggling to find the money and the political will to replace the bulk of the U.S. contribution to Ukraine and their own defense. I got a third slide here. Daily Telegraph. Daniel Hannan, the former Tory MEP, Brexit leader and conservative. It's time for the English-speaking world to come together, but we can no longer rely on the U.S., as he writes in op-ed for these headlines. Now, the Reuters one. What planet do these people live on? Okay. They must withdraw to ease sanctions. They're not withdrawing. Ain't going to happen. Okay. Not going to happen. And Europe doesn't have the will. You still got Macron still talking about peacekeepers in an army of 85,000, half of which are combat. Britain 72,000, half of which are combat. What? You know, defend them? You're complaining about U.S. pulling out of Ukraine. Meanwhile, we are still paying for things, and we still are sending them military weapons. All right, and Trump needs to pull that cord now. That's how you do it. They will collapse without us. You want to end the war? That's how you end the war. End of story. Watch a Tucker interview with Witkoff. Okay? Watch what Lavrov says. They all are consistent across the board. Okay? They want a long-standing peace. They don't trust the West. They don't want a Minsk 3. And that's what's going to happen. And these Europeans live in La La Land. And the Times headline I just showed you, they can't. Van der Leyen, 800 billion to build up our military. German, the new chancellor, Merz there. Yeah, we're going to build a military. What? You guys can't replace, you're already having a hard time replacing the aid to Ukraine now, which was paramount to 200 billion, or whatever the exact number was. Okay, and you can't figure out how to do it. You don't have the money, because that means that you would have to take money away from your welfare states, which we underwrite because we pay and guarantee their security. So they pay 1.5%, and 2.5% goes through the welfare state. Well, we pay 4%, and we don't have a welfare state. We have Social Security and Medicare, which are insurance programs that you pay into and are eligible at a certain age. Okay, so that's what's going on. And they can't agree. They can't do this. And they live in La La. And then Reuters wastes its time with an article. If they withdraw the sanctions. Ooh, Russia's scared. People, these globalists are pathetic. Now, give you an update on Kursk. This was of 20th March. A lot of these territories have been taken here. Suja is completely liberated. They're moving west. Now, if you go here to Basivka, just there, Russia's pressuring there. That's actually the Sumy region. So they're getting major pressure in that area. So mostly all of Kursk is liberated. Small little pockets here and there. And the Belgorod region, which is south of here, Ukraine has started to poke around and launch some incursions into villages. So it's clear to me what they're trying to do is hold up, because these are actual Russia proper areas, to divert Russian forces from primarily the Donbass region, including Sumy and the Kharkiv region now, where Russia has also stepped up pressure, and in the Zaporozhye region, which has been the most quiet of the 4 Donbass oblasts over the last year, since the counteroffensive of the summer of 2023. For example, Robotyno, which was the only town that the Ukrainians took in the counteroffensive, Russians are driving north of there and will attacks. So just want to give you an update on Kursk and the battle here. Now, going back to the deal, I'll give you an example. If you don't know, because I heard it here, Russia, in the spirit against the attacking the infrastructure, not attacking the infrastructure. By the way, was it energy and infrastructure or energy infrastructure? Don't really know. All right. But anyway, this is the gas pipeline going through Suja. Okay, now that's why they put it through there, because it was a major city in Kursk to the west, going into Ukraine, through Ukraine to Europe at one point. And Ukraine attacked it on the way out the door. A little scorched earth. Okay, that's energy infrastructure, and that was after the agreement. They also attacked oil facilities in Belgorod after the agreement. So again, in the corporate media in the West, you hear, Russia is violating the spirit of that, not attacking energy. Meanwhile, Ukraine struck first. Watch it happen live, folks. Now, this is a video. Airstrike, precision strike. I just wanted to show you this because you can see the air defense has hit it. That was actually outside of Kiev, I believe. And tonight, I'm hearing reports of major strikes, a lot of times they'll hit the whole areas, the whole multiple oblasts, whatever. But they're concentrating, I've noticed, on cities that are closer to the line. So Dnipropetrovsk, just northwest of Pokrovsk, in the north of where Donetsk meets Zaporozhye. They're also launched these attacks in Kivrog Roy, which is also in Dnipropetrovsk, just to the west of Donetsk as well, and outside of and in the Sumy region, which the Russians have taken some territory that borders this Ukrainian side of Kursk, just to the northwest of it. But this is just one of the strikes. I saw at least 5 videos of different locations, but you can see the explosions there and everything. So Russia's going to continue. And unless they think they're going to get a long-term deal, they're going to say, what will guarantee our security? And they're going to go to the Dnieper River because they'll have at least the natural barrier. That's what I thought for a long time, unless a permanent peace will be there. And the problem is Zelensky's going panning around with the Europeans, talking trash about Trump. All right, he's not serious about any deal. Any kind of a deal does not achieve any of the goals, of the Russian Federation. And at the ultimate end, they want that security. And, the other factors in as well, of course. But that's where we are now. Now, I think some of the goals have changed from the initial start of the SMO. But it'll still be no NATO. They're going to want elections held in Ukraine because they want to make sure that whatever they sign, it's with a legitimate guy. Because remember, his term expired last May, almost a year now, for democracy. And they're going to not allow these people, no territory is going back. So it's not even a thought. Okay. And they're not going to allow whatever. And now the other thing they have to worry about is what about some of these areas that are yet to be under Russian control that still have ethnic Russians in it who are more loyal to Russia, that just have not made it to the Russian line yet. What's going to happen to them in a deal if they still say on the Ukrainian side? Well, they're afraid they'll be shot and killed by the SBU or other right-wing groups like Right Sector or Azov or something to that effect. So he's got to think about that. That's why I think they'll just keep going to the Dnieper River. The only way it goes to the table, in my opinion, and it works, is if Trump pulls the plug. So anyway, that's my welcome back video after vacation. I'm going to be keeping on any of the issues, the upcoming Wisconsin election. Oh, by the way, there's a Supreme Court election. There's also Florida 1, Florida 6. Florida 1 looks safe. Florida 6, which is Waltz's seat, ironically, will look like we might have some problem there, and that's not looking good either. So, again, it's to do with turnout, the Republican Party as a whole, and how feckless they are. We'll keep an eye on that. Any progress on, they're talking about the grain deal now in Ukraine, see what happens, see if Russia's starting to prepare some more operations in the Zaporozhye region, and these strikes are part of that. So I'll keep an eye on that. See what goes in some of these European elections coming up, any more news in Syria, Middle East. So I'll be doing that, and I'll be keeping up on social media and other sources I use. So you can follow me on X at Patriot Planner 1, on Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and definitely share it. I really appreciate it. And I'll try to put out a video, end of the week video on Friday. If not, I'll see you soon. Have a good night.